The desert heat was suffocating at 0400 hours, but Captain Sarah Mitchell had learned to ignore discomfort during her 12 years of service. What she couldn't ignore was the uneasy feeling crawling up her spine as she reviewed the mission briefing one last time in the back of the armored vehicle. Intelligence suggests a weapons cache at coordinates 34.2581 degrees north, 43.6793 degrees east, she read aloud to her team of 6 soldiers. We go in, secure the area, document everything, and extract before dawn. Sergeant Rodriguez, her most trusted NCO, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Cap, something feels off about this one. No air support, no backup team, radio silence protocol. That's not standard procedure for a weapons cache. Sarah had the same concerns, but orders were orders. General Harrison had personally briefed her, emphasizing the classified nature of the operation. General Morrison, the base commander, had been present but unusually quiet during the briefing. Rodriguez, we follow protocol. But stay sharp, Sarah replied, checking her sidearm for the 3rd time. The compound they approached looked abandoned, too abandoned. Sarah's combat instincts, honed through 3 tours of duty, screamed danger. But the intelligence reports were clear. Enemy weapons stockpile, high-value target, minimal resistance expected. Team, remember the rules of engagement. Document everything with a field camera. We need proof of what we find here, Sarah ordered as they approached the perimeter. The first building was empty except for dust and broken furniture. The second contained what appeared to be old ammunition boxes, empty ones. It was in the third building that Sarah found what would change everything. Hidden behind a false wall was a small office with a computer still running. On the desk lay scattered documents and, most importantly, a locked metal file cabinet. Sarah's Arabic was functional enough to understand some of the documents scattered on the desk. They weren't terrorist plans or weapon specifications. They were contracts, payment authorizations, logistics coordination. Rodriguez, come here, Sarah called quietly. Look at these signatures. Rodriguez examined the documents under his flashlight. Cap, these aren't enemy documents. These are ours. Look at the letterhead. The documents bore the official seal of their own military command. Sarah's blood ran cold as she recognized the signatures at the bottom. General Harrison and General Morrison. Cap, we need to get out of here. Now, Rodriguez whispered urgently. Sarah was already working on the file cabinet lock with her multi-tool. Inside were more documents, USB drives, and photographs. One photograph showed General Harrison shaking hands with a man Sarah recognized from intelligence briefings, a known arms dealer. Rodriguez, start the field camera. Document everything, every single page. As Rodriguez began recording, Sarah photographed the documents with her personal camera, a habit she developed for her own mission reports. The evidence was damning. Both generals have been selling military weapons to arms dealers, using fake intelligence reports to justify lost equipment. Contact base. We need immediate extraction, Sarah ordered. Cap, radio's dead. No signal. Sarah felt her heart rate spike. In 12 years of service, communication equipment had never failed during a mission. She tried her backup radio. Nothing. We move on foot. Pack everything. Every document, every drive. As they prepared to leave, Sarah heard the unmistakable sound of approaching vehicles. Multiple engines moving fast. Contact! Rodriguez shouted as the first shots rang out. The attack came from 3 directions simultaneously. Sarah's team took cover behind concrete barriers, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. This wasn't a random encounter. It was a coordinated assault. Cap, they knew we were coming, shouted Private Shun over the gunfire. Sarah realized with growing horror that this wasn't a coincidence. The mission briefing, the isolated location, the radio failure, they had been set up. Rodriguez, get the team to the extraction point. I'll cover you. Not without you, Cap. That's an order, Sergeant. Sarah provided covering fire as her team moved toward their vehicles. But the enemy had anticipated their escape route. An explosion rocked the compound, and Sarah felt shrapnel tear through her left shoulder. She managed to make it to cover behind a damaged wall, clutching the file of documents. Her shoulder was bleeding heavily, but she could still move. Through her scope, she saw something that made her blood freeze. In the distance, coordinating the attack, was Colonel James Weber, General Harrison's aide-de-camp. He was directing the assault team, speaking into a radio. Sarah realized she was meant to die here, along with her team, along with the evidence. The gunfire intensified. Sarah saw Rodriguez fall, then Chun. One by one, her team was being eliminated. She was the only one left, wounded and surrounded. Using the chaos of the battle, Sarah managed to slip away from the compound through a breach in the back wall. She crawled through the desert sand, leaving a trail of blood, clutching the file that could expose the corruption. For 6 hours, she moved through the desert, using her survival training to stay hidden. Her shoulder throbbed with each movement, but she forced herself to keep going. She had to survive. She had to get the evidence to someone who could act on it. At dawn, she reached a small village 15 kilometers from the compound. The villagers, initially suspicious, helped her when they saw she was wounded. An elderly man who spoke broken English bandaged her shoulder. "American soldiers came through yesterday," he told her. "They said you were dead. All of you." Sarah's jaw clenched. The official report had already been filed. She was declared killed in action. Her team was dead, and she was supposed to be too. "I need to get to the capital," she told the old man. "It's important. Americans will look for you. Dangerous." Sarah understood. If she was officially dead, any attempt to contact military channels would alert the very people who had tried to kill her. She needed a different approach. That evening, using the village's internet connection, Sarah researched investigative journalists who had covered military corruption. She found Marcus Thompson, a reporter known for his exposés on defense contractors. She sent him a single message. "I have evidence of corruption involving 2 generals. I'm supposed to be dead. If you want the story of the decade, meet me at the coordinates I'm sending. Come alone." 3 days later, Marcus arrived at the remote location Sarah had specified. She was waiting for him, still bandaged but determined. "You're supposed to be dead," Marcus said, staring at her. "That was the plan, but I survived, and I have everything." Sarah handed him the file. Marcus opened it, his eyes widening as he read. This is huge. Do you realize what this means? It means 2 generals murdered my team to cover up their crimes. And it means I'm going to make sure they pay for it." Marcus looked at the wounded soldier in front of him. "Are you sure you want to do this? These people tried to kill you once. They'll try again." Sarah thought of Rodriguez, of Chun, of her entire team lying dead in the desert. "They already took everything from me, but they made one mistake. They left me alive." Marcus Thompson had been an investigative journalist for 15 years, but he'd never handled a story this explosive. For 2 weeks, he worked with Sarah to verify every document, cross-reference every signature, and build an airtight case. "The evidence is solid," Marcus told Sarah as they sat in his secure apartment. "Weapons sales totaling over $50 million, falsified reports, murdered soldiers to cover it up. But we need more than documents. We need testimony." Sarah had been thinking the same thing. The documents were damning, but without corroborating witnesses, the generals could claim the evidence was fabricated. "There's someone who might help," Sarah said. "Lieutenant Colonel Patricia A. She's in charge of logistics at the base. She's honest, and she's been suspicious of some of the equipment discrepancies. Can we trust her?" Pat's been in the service for 20 years. She joined the military to serve her country, not to make money. If anyone would help us, it's her. Sarah arranged to meet Patricia at a small cafe in the city, away from the military base. When Patricia saw Sarah walk in, she nearly dropped her coffee cup. "Sarah? My God, you're supposed to be dead. The memorial service was last week." "I know. I was there, watching from across the street." Sarah had indeed attended her own memorial service, disguised among the civilian mourners. She had watched as General Harrison delivered a eulogy about her heroic sacrifice and dedication to duty. The hypocrisy had nearly made her sick. "Pat, I need your help, and I need you to listen to everything I'm about to tell you." For the next hour, Sarah explained everything. The mission, the setup, the evidence, the cover-up. Patricia listened in growing horror. Sarah, do you realize what you're saying? You're accusing two generals of murder and treason. I'm not accusing them. I'm proving it. Sarah showed Patricia the documents. Patricia's face went pale as she recognized the signatures and letterheads. I've been tracking equipment discrepancies for months, Patricia said quietly. Weapons that were reported destroyed, but never were. Equipment that disappeared from our inventory with no proper documentation. I thought it was just bureaucratic incompetence. It was deliberate. They were selling our weapons to arms dealers and reporting them as battle losses. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. Sarah, if we do this, our careers are over. They'll destroy us. Pat, my career is already over. I'm officially dead. My team is actually dead. This isn't about careers anymore. This is about justice. Patricia looked at her friend, a woman she'd known for 8 years, who had always been the most honest officer she'd ever served with. What do you need me to do? I need you to access the base's classified archives. There should be digital records of all the weapons transfers. If we can match the serial numbers from the sales contracts with the weapons reported as destroyed, we'll have ironclad proof. Patricia knew the risks. Accessing classified files without authorization was a court-martial offense. But she also knew that Sarah was right. Give me 3 days. 3 days later, Patricia met Sarah with a USB drive containing the classified records. The data was exactly what they needed: serial numbers, transfer dates, and disposal reports that perfectly matched the weapons being sold to arms dealers. There's more, Patricia said. I found communications between Harrison and Morrison. They were planning to expand the operation. They were going to start selling vehicle parts and ammunition too. Marcus had been working on his own investigation. He had reached out to contacts in the intelligence community, people who had been suspicious of the general's activities but had no proof. I found 3 more officers who were asking questions. Marcus told Sarah. They were all transferred to different bases within the last 6 months. Harrison and Morrison were cleaning house. We need to move fast, Sarah said. The longer we wait, the more evidence they can destroy, the more people they can silence. Marcus nodded. I've been in contact with the editors at the Washington Herald. They're ready to run the story, but they want to give the military a chance to respond first. No, Sarah said firmly. The moment we contact official channels, they'll know I'm alive. They'll come after all of us. Then what do you propose? Sarah had been thinking about this for weeks. We release everything simultaneously. The newspaper story, the evidence online, and direct copies to the Inspector General, the FBI, and Congress. Make it impossible to suppress. Marcus smiled grimly. Scorched earth approach. I like it. The next morning, Sarah did something she hadn't done in 6 weeks. She put on her dress uniform. Not because she was still officially in the military, but because she wanted to face her accusers as the soldier she had always been. At exactly 0800 hours, Marcus's story went live online. The headline read, "Exclusive, Dead Soldier Returns with Evidence of General-Level Corruption and Murder." By 0830, the story was trending on social media. By 0900, news networks were picking it up. By 1000, Sarah's phone was ringing. Captain Mitchell, this is General Peterson from the Inspector General's office. I need to speak with you immediately. Sarah had researched Peterson. He was clean, a straight shooter who had been investigating corruption in the military for years. General, I'm ready to testify, but I need protection. These people tried to kill me once. You have it. How quickly can you get to Washington? I'm already here. 6 hours later, Sarah was sitting in a secure conference room at the Pentagon, facing a panel of investigators. General Peterson led the questioning. Captain Mitchell, you understand the serious nature of these accusations? Yes, sir. I also understand the serious nature of my dead teammates. Sarah presented her evidence methodically. The documents, the photographs, the classified records Patricia had obtained, the testimony of the other officers Marcus had found. General Peterson, I have one more piece of evidence. Sarah produced her personal camera, the one she had used to photograph the documents at the compound. This camera has GPS metadata for every photograph. You can verify that these documents were photographed at the compound at the exact time and coordinates specified in the mission briefing. Peterson's aide examined the camera. Sir, the metadata confirms her story. These photographs were taken at the location and time she specified. As Sarah was testifying, FBI agents were simultaneously arresting General Harrison at his office and General Morrison at his home. Both men were taken into custody without incident. That evening, Sarah stood on the steps of the Pentagon, facing a crowd of reporters. Marcus was beside her, along with Patricia and the other officers who had come forward. 6 weeks ago, I was declared dead, Sarah began. My team was actually murdered. We were killed not by enemy forces, but by corruption within our own ranks. We were killed because we discovered that 2 generals were selling weapons to arms dealers, the same weapons that were being used against our own soldiers. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. Sergeant Rodriguez, Private Chun, Corporal Williams, Private Johnson, Specialist Martinez, and Private Thompson died because they were good soldiers who followed orders. They died because they trusted their commanders. They died because they believed in serving their country. Sarah's voice broke slightly, but she continued. I survived because I was lucky, but I also survived because I had evidence that these men needed to be held accountable. I survived because my team deserved justice. A reporter called out, "Captain Mitchell, what do you want to happen now?" Sarah looked directly into the camera. I want every family who lost a soldier to weapons sold by these generals to know the truth. I want every service member to know that we will not tolerate corruption in our ranks. And I want Harrison and Morrison to spend the rest of their lives in prison, thinking about the soldiers they murdered. 3 months later, both generals were convicted of treason, murder, and corruption. Harrison received life in prison without parole. Morrison received the same sentence. Sarah was reinstated to active duty and promoted to major. She was offered the Medal of Honor, but she declined. "The real heroes are the soldiers who didn't make a home," she said. "I was just doing my job." Instead, she asked for something different, command of a new unit focused on rooting out corruption within the military. Her first recruit was Lieutenant Colonel Patricia Hayes. 1 year later, Sarah stood in Arlington National Cemetery at the graves of her fallen team members. Each headstone now bore the inscription, "Died in service to truth and justice." Rodriguez's wife, Maria, had come to the ceremony. She approached Sarah with tears in her eyes. "Thank you for bringing him home," she said. "Thank you for making sure the world knows he was a hero." Sarah saluted each grave, then spoke quietly to her fallen teammates. "Mission accomplished, team. The bad guys are in prison. The corruption is exposed. You can rest now." As she walked away, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced in over a year: peace. She had kept her promise. She had brought justice for her team. The file that had cost 6 soldiers their lives had ultimately saved countless others. The investigation Sarah had triggered led to the discovery of corruption networks throughout the military, resulting in dozens of arrests and the recovery of millions of dollars in stolen weapons and equipment. But for Sarah, the real victory was simpler. She had been left bleeding in the field, abandoned by the very people she had sworn to serve. But she had survived. She had returned. And she had won. 2 years later, Sarah Mitchell stood before a graduating class of military officers. As the keynote speaker, she was asked to share the most important lesson she had learned in her career. "The most important lesson I learned," she said, looking out at the young faces before her, "is that your oath is not to your commanders, or to your rank, or to your career. Your oath is to your country, to your fellow soldiers, and to the truth." She paused, thinking of Rodriguez, Chun, and the others. There will come a time in your career when you will face a choice between what is easy and what is right. When that moment comes, remember that good soldiers don't just follow orders, they follow their conscience. And sometimes, following your conscience means standing up to the very people who gave you those orders. After the ceremony, a young lieutenant approached her. "Ma'am, I read about what happened to you. How did you find the courage to do what you did?" Sarah smiled. "Lieutenant, I didn't find courage. I found that I had no choice. When you lose everything, you discover what really matters. And what really matters is making sure that the people who trust you, your soldiers, your country, your family, can continue to trust you." The lieutenant nodded solemnly. "Thank you, ma'am. I hope I never have to make that choice." I hope you never have to either, Sarah replied. But if you do, remember, the truth is always worth fighting for, even when it costs you everything. That evening, Sarah had dinner with Patricia and Marcus. The three had remained close friends, bonded by the experience that had nearly destroyed them all. Any regrets? Marcus asked. Sarah considered the question. She had lost her original career trajectory, spent months in hiding, faced death threats, and endured a grueling investigation. But she had also exposed massive corruption, saved lives, and brought justice to her fallen teammates. No regrets, she said finally. We did the right thing, and my team can rest in peace knowing that their deaths meant something. Patricia raised her glass. To the soldiers who didn't make a home. To the soldiers who didn't make a home, Sarah and Marcus echoed. As they sat in the quiet restaurant, Sarah reflected on how much had changed. She had been betrayed by her own command, left for dead in the desert, and forced to fight for justice from the shadows. But she had survived, and more importantly, she had won. The file that had nearly cost her life had ultimately saved it, and the lives of countless others. Sometimes, Sarah thought, the most important missions are the ones you never expected to undertake. And sometimes, the greatest victories come from the moments when you refuse to stay down, no matter how hard they try to bury you.